Hey, what's up guys? This is Brandon, aka Inspired Author on Instagram. You guys don't know who I am. I am a published author of novels, comics, and manga. Really into fantasy, really into mythology, that type of stuff. But I've been trying to break into new mediums as well, such as like romance and stuff like that. But most of the works that I've published so far have all been fantasy, action, adventure, that kind of stuff. And today I'm going to be making a quick video. Hopefully it's quick. A lot of my videos are not quick, so I'm assuming it's not going to be quick, but I really will try and burn through it quickly. Quick video on how I manage to write every day. Because a lot of people will be asking me questions like, oh Brandon, how do you kind of like get into that groove, the habit of writing every day? And I think that writing is, something, it's like a skill. It's a skill that you have to develop. The more you write, the better you're going to get. And the more you read, the better you're gonna, but not the better you're gonna get, but the more you're gonna be able to know like what you like, what is good, what tropes you should avoid, and that will translate into better writing, which you can obviously practice when you're writing. And I think that the best way to develop yourself as a writer is to kind of find, well, you should be writing a lot, right? So you're not just gonna become a amazing writer overnight. It's something that you kind of have to work on and build upon and learn as you're going along. And the best way to do that is obviously to write as much as you can. So I think that it's pretty important to keep a very consistent writing schedule if possible. I remember when I was in college, it was like really hard to kind of keep that consistent schedule, especially like with classes, trying to have friends, that type of stuff, like trying to figure out what you want to do with your life. A lot harder to kind of keep that kind of schedule. And that's actually primarily the reason for why I was putting out a lot of projects a lot slower, kind of in the past. But post-college, it's definitely not, from my personal experience, post-college is not as hard because I kind of have like a set schedule. I kind of know where I have my free time and where I can where I have like set times to set aside to do writing and reading. And I think that something that I wish I did in college was hey, your day is very undefined, right? You don't know, if you're gonna have classes, but you don't know if you're gonna go to those classes, right? You don't know when someone's gonna ask you to get dinner or whatever. It's all like priorities, right? But if you wanted to do all those things, I think a great time to set aside time, and a lot of authors that I've read about that do this, is they set aside like an hour in the morning, like really early, like before everyone else is awake, right? Like 5 a.m. They set aside an hour to write then, and then they set aside an hour to write at night. But I would personally, before you go to bed, I think it's always good to set aside an hour to read at night. I think it's actually pretty good to set aside like an even balance of writing and reading, right? If you can be a reader but not write, but you can't be a writer without reading. I think that's pretty important. But anyway, if you set aside that hour or so to write, and if you do more, like 100%, that's awesome. But like you're doing a minimum of an hour each day if you set aside that hour in the morning, right? And that's helping you kind of develop this habit, right? And if you're developing this habit, eventually, you do this, the first day it's probably gonna be tough. This first week probably gonna be tough. The first month, after the first month, you're gonna be like, all right, this isn't so bad. Like 6 months go by and you're just doing it and you don't even think about it anymore. So just kind of powering through at the beginning, and then like eventually you're gonna find out that you're writing a lot total, like your total amount of hours. Maybe you're not sitting down and doing those 16-hour writing sessions. You still could do that, but at least you have a minimum of like what? If you do an hour a day, it's like 7 hours a week of writing, which is still pretty decent compared to doing none. So I know that because it's 2020 now, so a lot of you guys are probably setting like your goals and like figuring out like, hey, this is something I want to do and accomplish in 2020. And some of you guys might want to write or read more, which is a great goal, because that's one that I'm also setting for myself. Even though I write like a crap ton, I could always be writing more. So I'm gonna be telling you guys a little bit about like kind of my goals for 2020, or not my goals, how I'm gonna be tackling this goal to write more in 2020. The first goal is gonna be continuing this kind of writing challenge I've been doing. And so basically throughout this year, I want to put out 365, right? So one for every day, pieces of content where if you guys don't know, I've talked about this in my previous videos. It's like a writing challenge where I take a photo, like a fantasy photo, an inspirational photo of some sort. Usually it's a piece of artwork that I'm really fond of, and I take 10 minutes to write a short story caption for that photo. So it's like the story and it aligns to the photo, and I'm drawing all of this the short story from whatever content's in the photo, right? So 10 minutes to write it, 5 minutes to edit it, and then I just post it. And I just like post it, and like the world can judge it. Basically what this does is, hey, you're writing every day. 1, 2, also you're learning how to write short stories quickly. Like writing short stories alone is pretty hard. Writing with like a time crunch and like that kind of stress of oh, I have to do this in 10 minutes, that's very important. And then also it helps your editing skills. You're also editing pretty quickly. You know, the first couple times are probably gonna be really tricky, right? Because you're writing so quick, and you're editing so quick. So the content, it's not really like, hey, I'm trying to put out like award-winning short stories here, right? It's mostly like, hey, how fast can I train my brain to think? How fast can I train my brain to be creative? Those kind of exercises. And I think another thing that this really teaches you is like, you know, perfection is not something that everyone should seek in their work. It's something you should go towards, but it's not something like, there's no project that you're going to put out that's going to be perfect. And that's just the truth. Like, there's going to be a reader out there, a reader or two, that's going to be like, all right, like, I don't like your work. And that's just how it is. And so I think a lot of writers are afraid of, you know, putting out content, putting out a book, putting out whatever it is they're trying to put out, a poem, whatever, because they're afraid of what other people are going to think, and they're afraid of, they're self-judgmental, and that's a big problem with every writer. Every writer is like scared of what other people are going to think, and I think that this exercise really helps to kind of like train yourself to kind of fight that fear, right? Because I'm just throwing out this draft that I wrote in 15 minutes into the world. And, you know, obviously don't do that with your novels, with like real projects that you want to, you know, publish and like, you know, that will be representing you and stuff like that. But I think it really does help like tackle that fear, like kind of helps you train yourself for that fear for when you do put out a book. You kind of know what that's like, even though you worked a lot. I imagine you worked more than 15 minutes on that book, but you know, you'll kind of know that feeling like, oh, this is the best that I could do. This is a high quality work. It might not be perfect, but I know that the world will love it. And that's important. And the second part for how I'm going to tackle the writing a lot more is doing something as often as I can. So I don't want to set like a deadline, like a standard for each day, because it's hard. Like, everyone's very busy and stuff like that. It's hard for me to kind of say every day I'm gonna do this, because realistically I probably won't be able to. So as often as I can, do like something that is involved with my writing career. And that could be something like planning a book, planning a comic, you know. It doesn't have to be something like necessarily narrative driven. Like, I'm not writing a chapter. It could be stuff like setting up a novel, and because planning is just as important as writing the actual novel itself, you know, I think this is a very important thing to do. And this can be also writing career, right? So this could be anything like querying an agent, marketing, like setting up marketing stuff. I don't know, and every step counts. So I'm gonna be trying personally to help my writing career, try and do that as often as I can. And the third part is to read every day. And like I said earlier, you know, reading is super important for every writer's career. And if you don't, I don't even know how people get into writing without loving to read first. So I kind of think of it as like trying to run without legs. You know, you're just making it a lot harder for yourself as a writer, and you're missing out on a lot of great stories out there too. So do your homework. I mean, do your homework, read as much as you can. Anyway, so that's what I'm going to be doing for 2020 to address the kind of writing goal of, you know, trying to write every day. It's definitely going to be a challenge for a lot of people, definitely. Like I said, it's a habit that you kind of have to develop over time. It doesn't happen overnight. But I think if you guys, you know, put your mind to it, try and set aside some time every day to try and, you know, write. Maybe, you know, I think a lot of you guys should try the challenge that I'm doing, and I'll set like a link in the description for how you guys can get involved if you're really interested in trying to do the challenge yourself. It's really good for developing your writing skills. Also getting ideas. I have seen because when I'm looking for a lot of artwork, I'll get like a lot of ideas for books or stories or short stories and stuff like that. So it's actually very helpful for just getting into any type of inspiration. But yeah, so hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like and comment maybe what your New Year's resolutions are. I would love to see what you guys are gonna be up to this year. If you guys want more videos, I'm gonna be trying to put out a lot more videos this year. Hopefully I can stick to that goal. Definitely subscribe, turn on the notifications if you guys want to be notified when I put out videos. And yeah, if you guys are interested in my novels, my comics, I have a lot of comics coming out this year. Hopefully I have a novel coming out this year as well. We'll see how well I can work. But I'll keep you guys definitely updated on that. But my currently published works, if you're interested in those, I'll put the link in the description as well. And yeah, cool. Thanks for watching, guys, and hopefully you guys found this to be informative or helpful. And I will see you guys in the next video. Cool? Bye.